Hi guys, this is Banu Prakash. Today the topic of discussion is Dockerfile. What is Dockerfile? How to write that? And what is hub.docker.com? And how we can pull the images from Docker Hub and how we can push the images to Docker Hub. So Dockerfile is nothing but whatever the image which we wanted to create, that image we will write in a format. That file is called Dockerfile. Since in the previous session, what we have seen, we have directly pulled the images from public Docker registry. If you don't want the public Docker registry images, and if you wanted to build your own images, so in such scenario, you can write your own Docker file. So once you write the Docker file, you can create an image out of it, and then you can publish that image into the Docker registry. So Docker registries we have available like Docker Hub, AWS ECR, Azure ACR, Google GCR. You can choose whichever you are comfortable with. So this is a sample Apache Docker file. So you can directly use this sample Apache Docker file and then if you build this image Docker file, the image will create. So let me explain what is this Docker file. If you see here, the first command here is frym. All the Docker commands which you are going to write in the Docker file will start with uppercase. And the Docker file name itself is Docker file. And the starting letter D should be in uppercase. All the commands starts with uppercase words. From is a command, arg is a command, maintainer is a command, run is a command, and expose is a command, cmd is a command. Like this, we have multiple Dockerfile commands. These are used to create the Dockerfile. From indicates what is the base image you wanted to take. In this case, I have taken Ubuntu as the base image. And then arg, that is argument. So whatever the argument which you wanted to define, you can define like this. Maintainer is nothing but the name of the person who is writing the respective Docker file, or you can mention the email ID. So these are all basically shell script commands which you need to write in Docker format. If you remember, apt-get update is the command we have used many times. So this is the first command we need to run when you log into AWS Ubuntu machine, and this will update the repositories. Once this command is completed, the next command is apt-get install Apache 2. Apache 2 is the default web server, and yesterday we have seen Nginx as the web server. Today we are talking about Apache 2. If we replace Apache 2 with Nginx, Nginx will be installed in the respective Ubuntu server. Expose 80. This means it will expose 80 port as in the container. cmd is, this is the first command which is going to run in the respective Docker container. So the Docker commands in the Docker file are not limited to these few commands. There are many Docker file based commands. We will see sometime later. So to build the Docker file, you need to run the command called docker build. Docker space build space -it, not -it, -t. T means tag name. We are giving the tag name as Apache, and you need to put dot. Dot represent the current directory where you have placed your Docker file. If you have placed a Docker file in some other directory, either you navigate to the respective directory and run this command, or you provide the path of that directory. So once you run the once you build the image, then you can run the image. So this is the command to run the image we have seen in the previous session. And to log into the container, this is the command docker exec-it container id bin bash. You can get the container id once you run the docker ps command. So once you log into the container, you can validate the service running or not using this command. Or you can run the same command from the Docker host. That is nothing but the AWS Ubuntu machine. And you can even validate from the browser using the AWS public IP address. So now see, we have seen what is Dockerfile and what are the commands in it and how to write the Dockerfile. And you don't need to write all the Docker files. There are many Docker files which are there over the internet. You can take any kind of Docker file from the internet and you can customize according to your requirement. And hub.docker.com we can use to store our Docker images either publicly or private. If you recall, GitHub also works in the similar concept. If you create a repository in the GitHub, it will give you an option to create it as a public or private. If you create a public repository or public, Docker, that means other people will be able to use your Docker image. Just navigate to this respective URL and you will be able to see the page like this. And then you provide your details and go for the sign up. Once you are able to sign up, then you will get Docker ID. In my case, this is my Docker ID. So let's launch a Ubuntu instance in the AWS EC2 and then install the Docker. And then what we see, we will log into the Docker hub using this command. Once you log into the Docker hub from the AWS Ubuntu machine, and then we can build our Apache and we can tag our Apache and then we can push that image to our respective Docker hub. These are the commands we are going to see now. So once you push the image, you will be able to see your Docker hub page like this. You can see number of downloads. I have only 3 images in my Docker hub. Now I will show you how we can launch AWS EC2 instance and then how we can log into Docker hub, how we can build a Docker image out of Dockerfile, and then how we can publish it. Let's see that now. Let's launch an instance from AWS EC2. I will search for Ubuntu. You can select any version between 18.04 or 16.04. I'm going with 16.04. I'm selecting T2 medium. Click on review and launch. Click on previous because I wanted to select the security group. In the security group, I have given all the traffic from anywhere. You can choose the key pair which you have. If you don't have, you can create one. Click on the view instance. By the time the instance gets up and running, I will open git bash and navigate to the place where I have placed my key pair. I have placed my key pair in the download section. So I navigated to that location. Since the instance is running, I will connect to the respective instance. Copy it, paste it. And I wanted to switch to root user and then I will run update command. After that, I will install Docker by using docker.io. apt-get install docker.io and for confirmation I have given -y. Now by the time its installation is done, I will navigate to the hub.docker.com. Yeah, so there are a couple of images, and recently I have published Apache image also into my Docker. Yeah, Docker installation is completed. Now I will create a file called Docker file. So in that I will place the content. This is the content. Yeah. Just open this using VA editor. I have opened the file and entered the content and saved the file. Now I will build the image using docker build command -t, and tag name I am giving as Apache, and I give tutorial. Any name you can give. I am entering dot in the end. Dot is mandatory. Now it will pick the Docker file in this location and start running one by one command which we have specified in the Docker file. Each command which we specify in the Docker file, it will run in the respective Docker and then create a layer. So Docker layer is nothing but whatever the modifications or configuration or the command which you are passing in the Docker file. You can see it is successfully tagged Apache-tutorial latest. Now I wanted to run this. So I will run using docker run command. And I will map with the 80 port. And name is Apache. And image is Apache tutorial. You can enter as it is, or you can even put latest tag in the end. Both will be accepted. If you run the Docker PS, you can see the running container. So you can log into the container using docker exec-it container id bin bash and validate the running Apache using curl command. So this is the command to verify. If you see, curl is not installed in this thing. So what we can do, since curl is not available, you can install the curl by using the Dockerfile. I will show you in some other time. Or I can use wget to see, or wget also not there. So what we do, let's modify the Dockerfile because I wanted to install the curl. I will write apt-get install curl and -y. This will install the curl and the respective Docker image. Now I will build the same image again with the docker build command. If you run it again, it will install the curl. You can see the following new package will be installed. Curl is installed. Okay. Now let's run the container. But before running the container, I need to stop the previously running container because it will not fetch the latest changes. So I'm stopping the previous container, and I will stop, and then I will delete that previous container, and then I will start a fresh one. I have removed the previous container. Now I will run the fresh one. Port I am mapping to 80. The name I am giving Apache, and what is the image name? Apache tutorial latest. Now it will run. Let's log into the respective container by using the container ID. Now I have logged into the respective container. Let me check whether service is up and running or not. You can see some response came when you press enter after using the curl http localhost 80. That means Apache is running inside the container, and I wanted to validate outside of the container. For that, I will run the same command here. So yes, the response is coming means it is even running outside the container. Outside the container means it is our Docker host. Docker host means that is AWS Ubuntu machine. Now I will validate that in the browser itself because I have my AWS public IP address. You can even put 80 or without 80 also it will work. If you see Apache Ubuntu default page is displayed in the browser, that means the container is running and it is properly running. This is how you can build your own image from the Dockerfile, and you can write any Dockerfile command by using Docker commands. So here, one thing I need to tell you, CMD is the command which will run by the time we run the Docker container. And there is another concept called entry point. If you wanted to run multiple commands during start, you have to use that entry point. Now let's log into the respective Docker Hub, and then we will push our Docker image to the Docker Hub. To do that, let's take the command. So what is the command to login is docker login -- username and Docker ID. So this is the command. Now it is asking the password. So I'm entering the password which I used during the sign up, and you can see login is succeeded. So it is logged into default Docker Hub, and then we need to tag the image according to the Docker ID. So what is the image you have? You can get the list of images using Docker images. Now this is the image I wanted to push. So you type Docker tag, and this image I wanted to push. So I have to rename. So I'm using rename word consciously because without tagging or without renaming, Docker Hub will not be able to understand. So this is the mandatory command you need to run before you push. So now I have tagged. If you tag, the same image will be available when you type the Docker images. See, this is the image is available locally. Now I wanted to push this image. So, and you can put the tag as latest. You can see the push refers to the repository, and it is going to docker.io, that is public Docker Hub, and it is the publishing the content. Once the publishing is done, we can check this image in the browser. I think it is still taking some time. Yeah, let me open the Docker Hub. Let me refresh it once. Yeah, you can see it is pushed from the AWS Ubuntu machine, and the image now will be available from the hub.docker.com. You can see Apache tutorial is the image which we have used today. Let it be there. So this is how you can build your own Docker images, and you can publish your images into any kind of Docker registry. Today we have seen what is Dockerfile, how we can build Docker images, how we can publish those Docker images to Docker registry. Thank you.